What's up, YouTube? I wanted to, first of all, thank everybody for their continued support and interest in the channel. You guys have been nothing short of amazing as we progressed through and added more and more content. If you've been keeping up with me lately, I've been doing more how do you do this, how do you do that, certification prep, my approach to different things, stuff like that. Um, I also started adding a gaming section to that. If you notice, I've started to game a little bit now that I've got some more spare time. It's not all about certification or the technology learning. I like to, venture out a little bit and have some fun. Why shouldn't I, right? Why shouldn't you? I don't want to get myself into a black hole, if you will, of I've got to study. Have some fun if you've got some certs. Enjoy life. It's not the end of the world. The last thing you want to do is when you're on your deathbed is, I should have studied more. No one says that. Let's be honest with ourselves. Let's have some fun. Let's enjoy life. Life is short. Enjoy it while you've got it. So I want to give everybody shoot a video that is going to cover quite a few things. And as you can see on the list, there's quite a few topics that I want to cover. And the first of which is an SP overview. What is SP? Why should you choose it? What are the options out there for you? You'll have to forgive me. I'm actually getting over strep throat. So if I pause the video a lot or take short breaks, there's a reason for that. If it looks like the video was paused, it likely was. So a service provider overview. So service provider is for candidates that potentially might work in a service provider or might want to work in a service provider. And it's a pretty large topic area. So I equate this to RNS v5 in topic size. It is still a pretty big topic domain. You swap out EIGRP for ISIS. You still have multicast, QoS, security. You swap out DMVPN for L2VPN. So basically it's CCA or RNS all over again. Now, OSPF, BGP, MPLS, this would be L3 VPN, IPv6, multicast, if I can spell, clause, pretty much those major topics were covered in RNSV5. So I'm from here across, I'm really, really good. I have no problem doing it. Here, this way, I need a refresher. It's natural, it happens. So those are topic areas that really need to be discussed and really gone over. So I'm going back through and this is more specific to the SP multicast, SP QoS. So, and I'll refer to SP service provider as SP as we move forward. Easier to say. So, taking what we know from here, we're just going to expand on that. Now, everything we're going to be covering is IPv6. Everything. Nothing is going to be specifically IPv4. Just nothing. Everything's going to assume every topic that I talk about, whether it's in moving forward in this video or any content that I create for INE or on this channel, V6, V4 and V6. So how can you build a service provider or SP lab on the cheap? Meaning, it's not going to break the bank. Well, there's a few different ways you can do this. You can use Viral. You can use UNet Lab. You can use GNS3 with the integration of using the viral images, if you can get them, of BMDK. Any one of those areas would be the same. I would say anywhere between 10 to 15 routers would suffice. the layer 2 aspects, I wouldn't worry about. I'd be more concerned about layer 2 bridging, meaning, creating a bridge domain for VPLS than I would be for configuring a layer 2 switching and trunking and things like that. And if you're not strong in those areas, take the couple of months, become strong. Simple as that. I am a big proponent of the home lab. The main reason, I'm the type of person where I don't like to wait on, time is precious. Let's just jump into it. So I like to go out there and actually grab, if I have 15 minutes, let's slap something up or learn a new technology. So spend the money if you can. If you have the room, great. If not, do what you got to do. I mean, I will always push a home lab. Currently, I have 3 IBM servers. I've actually added one just recently, and I have 2 of which are running ESXi. The other one is running Win 7, and this guy right here is my VMware lab, where I'm doing everything VMware because of the fact that I want to do NSX and VDI and things like that. I'm just interested in technology in general. These guys are allowing me to do my SP, security, wireless, all kinds of stuff, right? So, and my route switch stuff if I need to. That's where I have all that stuff running. Now, how I built my SP lab? Pretty much right here. I have one of these servers is running viral. I'll be buying a 30 node upgrade here soon once I get all we're through, excuse me, all the topics on the blueprint. And I'm running one, what do I have? 12 CSRs and 6 XRV boxes. The CSRs are set up where I have 10 of those are provider specific boxes. The other 2 are VRF'd out to make one router look like 6. Excuse me. Again, I'm just getting over strep, so normal speech is kind of difficult at the moment. So I have 2 routers. I have basically customer 1 and customer 2. Customer 1 and customer 2 each have 6 sites. Each site is actually a separate VRF on that particular router. So I have 6 individual VRFs. Each VRF connects to a specific router. Therefore, even though each VRF, so say for instance I have router 11 connects to say R8 and XR2 respectively. What'll end up happening is this will be one VRF 1, and this will be VRF 2. And let's say that there is an MPLS cloud in the background, and these guys are PE routers. So this guy connects to this guy connects here, here, here. So these are PE routers. These are PE routers. These are all P routers. R11 will send a packet out VRF1. This is all these are .1Q trunks, just in case you were wondering. Sends a packet out this way. R8 receives it, and then sends it through the MPLS core back to XR2, which is another PE, drops it down on here. So I can ping from VRF1 to VRF2 on router 11. Because the VRFs are separate routing tables, they see each other as 2 separate routing tables, 2 different networks, 2 different routers. So I have 6 on R11 and 6 on R12. So I can make one router appear as 6 individual sites. So I'm having to have 12 or 8 additional routers, or no, 10 additional routers on the topology It appears like there's more, but physically or logically speaking, there isn't. So that's how I go about doing that. It definitely helps cut down on resources and whatnot. Could I run that many more? I probably most likely could, but you know, if you don't have to, why? Methods for approaching different topics. There's no wrong way and there's no right way to study. I'll be honest with you. I study in all kinds of different methods. I guess whatever works for you works for you. Whatever method, if you like to read, more power to you. If you like to watch me and me demo things for you, great. I appreciate the consideration. I appreciate the viewership. You know, I like to help people out whenever I can. Don't get yourself into a rut where you're. I find myself where I'll get into creating a bunch of topologies, and I'll be like, oh crap, I forgot to add in this technology. And then I'll blow away, and I'll have some 30 device topology, and then it'll take me an hour and a half to address it, and then, you know, it takes me on average about 3 to 4 hours to build a topology, and that's just dragging, you know, dragging routers out and drawing them out like this, and then connecting them, well, that was a bad line, to here and to here, and then, you know, do your V4 and your V6 addressing, and then do your trunking here. This could be a router 1, XR1, this could be R2, and then you've got to get connectivity to R2 from R1. That takes a while. So, nice thing about .1Q trunks is you can add on demand when you need to. So, don't get stuck in the fact that you have to do this, you have to do that. You don't have to do anything. Do whatever works for you. That's just my philosophy. I've talked to so many people that have studied for CCNA, CCAR, CCDE, whatever gets the job done. You know what I mean? But one of the things that I do when I'm approaching a topic is I like to do like the marketing fluff. You know, what does it do? You know, if I wanted to talk to a salesperson, I could type, and say, okay, why would I need provider backbone bridging, Ethernet virtual private networking, or PBB EVPN? Well, I'm going to want someone to explain to me what that is, first of all, and what it does. Why would I need it? What platforms support it? What is the benefit of going that way over something else? And then once I've said, okay, I get the marketing aspect of it, why you would try to sell it to a customer, and then I would start digging into the what are the individual components to it, and start taking that and breaking it down per feature set and going that route. And that's how I approach pretty much everything. One of my big things that I like to do, which most people, if you've been following me for any length of time, would know this, that I like to answer several questions per feature. So I have the major topic, let's say, you know, carrier Ethernet, right? And this will be your E-line, this will be your E-LAN, this will be your E-tree, so this will be your Atom, this will be your VPLS, this would be your HVPLS, and taking that and bridging off of it. You know, this will be your point-to-point. This will be acting as a LAN over the SP network. This will be a rooted tree, or rooted LAN, kind of like a hub and spoke environment. And why would you want to do one over the other? So I always ask myself, who, you know, who, what, where, when, how, and why. I ask myself these 6 questions, and it doesn't necessarily mean to like what does it do? So what does it do? No. Who would use it? Okay. What does it do? Where would you use it? When would you use it? How would you use it? Why would you use it? So you're answering a couple different things. You're answering a design question with where would you use it? How would you use it? What would be the solution that it would deploy? Why would you use it? What is the solution or the business driver behind it? What would you use it? You're going to use, what is it? What does it do? Is it a, tunneling technique? Does it help with traffic engineering? Does it help with security? Answer these questions, and this will start off with the topic up here. And this will answer this question. Then this will answer this question. There's also, with Atom, you also have L2TPV3, which does a very similar thing, except for Atom needs an MPLS core to forward traffic, where L2TPV3 can use regular internet. Doesn't need to be MPLS. It can just be regular IP. So you have that. So there's definitely other aspects that you need to understand as you're moving forward. So that is the general approach that I have, and going through and learning the technologies. There really isn't any one resource out there, so you have to utilize multiple. Whether it's a book, currently IP routing on iOS, XE, and XR. I think I need a reboot. So I'm reading that book right now, going through it, making sure that there's nothing I've missed. There's some things about IPv6 multicast that I wasn't aware of. So I don't know everything. I don't claim to. So I'm going through that right now. That's a really good book. Cisco Live's website, Cisco Live 365. Read whatever you can about the different technologies. Google MPLS, see what's out there to read. Segment routing, GMPLS, generalized MPLS. Why would you choose CRS over ASR9K? Stuff like that. So one of the biggest questions is, how do I get over the I don't remember what I covered 2 months ago? Well, that's a really good question, because I don't either sometimes. And honestly, there is no one size fits all answer. What that really boils down to at the end of the day, I don't want to do that, is repetition. But you're not going for rogue memorization. You really aren't. The big difference between people that can remember what they've got going on versus people that have no clue what they're talking about, or like, I don't remember. Basically, it's did you learn it to know it, or did you learn it to pass it? So what I mean by that is, did you just cram a bunch of information? Did you learn all the LSA types that OSPF has to pass the route exam tomorrow morning? If you did, okay, you'll probably remember, what a Type 5 LSA is, right? External LSA. But do you know what happens to it when it goes into a stub network? If you answered yes to that question, then what happens? Well, it gets nixed. It's not allowed. Only Type 3, 2, and 1 are allowed in stubs, unless you're dealing with an NSSA, and then it's still not allowed. It's actually Type 7, right? So learn it to learn it. Don't learn the technology. Don't learn the material just to pass the test. I've interviewed people that really think they know. And then when I start asking them, okay, why would you use, explain the difference between Type 7 and Type 5 LSA. And there's no real wrong way to explain it, but I'm looking for key things like, well, redistribution, this, that, and the other. If you can't answer general questions, then that tells me either you don't know it as well as you think you do, or you know it just enough to answer some of the questions that are on a potential exam you're going for. So repetition is the only way, in my opinion, that you're going to be successful in the networking industry. A lot of times I will add in Sorry about that, guys. So repetition, I will throw in a one of the things that I did when I was taught CCNA service provider for INE was, and this was actually something that I brought to their attention, said, hey, what do you guys think about this? And they jumped on it. It's one of those things I like working with them is they take what I think might be valuable, and usually pretty quickly they come back and say, yeah, we'll go ahead and just do it. Um, uh, so quite often I will throw in things that I haven't touched in a while, like layer 2 technologies, route switching, trunking, VLANs, VTP, all the different versions of VTP. So um, I'll do that just to keep what I know from, say, a year and a half, 2 years ago fresh, so that I'm not like, not that I would ever forget it, or like there might be a small minute detail that I might like, oh yeah, I forgot about that feature, or I might do a question mark and like, oh, what does that command do again? I'll look at the command reference. Oh yeah, that's right. And it's not that I forgot it, it's just that I hadn't used it in a while, and it's not something that was fresh, like at the front of the brain, I guess you could say. So there's nothing wrong with that. So try to keep things, whenever you're going through a long-term of a long-term study session, so like you're studying for a CCIE potentially, try to build a topology. At least this is how I go about doing it, to try to keep things fresh and at the front of the brain and active. Is I try to build my topology so that I never stop having to incorporate all the technologies in the blueprint into one big topology. That's why I build topologies somewhat large, so I give myself a lot of potential um, uh, like refreshes, if you will. So nothing ever gets stale. So that's how I go about doing that. I try to keep going over the same material over and over and over again so that it becomes second nature. So what books, reading list did I use? Is reading that useful? I guess to some degree it might be for some people. To me, it's good for some things. Like I'll read the documentation just to get a general idea of how something will work. Um, now that I'm in service provider, there's less and less content out there. So if you ever read my blog, less and less topics are getting out there. So as I'm hitting a particular topic area, I'm doing posts on that particular subject matter, and so that at least there's something out there for people to utilize. And I have to make sure that INE is okay with me including my blog URL inside of the slide deck. I don't think they're going to have a problem with that, but I just have to double check. So that there's something outside of the video series that I've created that will potentially help somebody. I would recommend anything that INE recommends for reading. I would definitely follow. Cisco Learning Network, CLN, I would check their site to see if there's anything out there that might be useful. Documentation is going to be huge, especially for those of you that are studying for a written CCA written exam. Service provider, security, wireless. Read through that, because I found a lot of the material, at least for my CCA written, a lot of the answers I found or remembered were stuff that I read about in the documentation. You don't have to read it to the finite detail of knowing, how many bits are in a header, but they're probably going to ask you questions on like, well, what's the difference between VPLS and L2TPv3? It's more of a high-level stuff, but if you didn't know that, then that could come back to bite you later on. So just gloss over. I wouldn't say read it in detail, but just make sure you have the general stuff for the most part. And that also brings me back, how low can you go? How deep do you go into a particular topic? Well, I recommend going over topics in waves, which what I mean is, especially if it's a new topic, don't try to dig into it headlong, CCA level at first, because you're probably going to struggle and you're going to burn yourself out. What I typically do is I structure my approach. So that means when I'll learn the, INE actually says it quite well. They have a 4-stage. Yeah, the first stage is just general understanding. General understanding. Do you know what it is and what it does? Then step 2 is general config. Can I go to the command line and get OSPF running? Router OSPF 1, set the router ID, type a couple of network statements in. If I get adjacencies, great. If I go to the other router, do I see the routes that I propagated from the router that I was on originally? If so, good. Then you know you have that level. And then what I do is step 3 is a, they call it advanced or an expert level. I'll say with advanced, but basically what this advanced means is every feature. And know what every feature is. If you do a question mark, if I go to router OSPF 1 on iOS or iOS XR and I do a question mark, I want to know what every feature there does. And then once you know what every feature is from a theory, what is prefix suppression? And then 4, do advanced configuration. Now advanced, I don't want to mislead anybody, but advanced, every feature. Config. That simply means have I actually got in there and configured it. And that's every feature per technology. Now, there are usually phases in each protocol. So you'll have like the base setup, then you'll have authentication, then you'll have summarization, then you'll have traffic engineering. I'm planning on the service provider course that I'm building. I'm planning on doing it like that, to where you're going from here to here to here to here. There's going to be a progression, if you will. Excuse me. There will be a progression in the. Bear with me here. Reading a text message. Oh, that's nice. In that, and so that you're building on what you already know. So that's how I would go about doing it, and this way here there's a progression. So like try to group, it's more or less the instructor's job to build you out. So you should just take the fundamentals and then build on those, so you know each silo. So if the OSPF is this, you should be able to do this, 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 and this, which each one of those circles would be an individual capability that OSPF can support. Whether it's areas or areas, authentication, summarization, filtering, stub, timers, things like that. So you'll be able to go through the entire protocol, and all you're basically doing is you're always going back to your base config. Now, how do you get OSPF to appear between two routers? And then you'll have like virtual links and things like that. And then all you have to do is if you go into a different area of the network, you can simply just go into that particular silo of information that you have and just draw whatever you need out. And then drop it in the config. And then away you go. Know your show commands for verification, away you go. That's how I would do it. And that goes for any protocol. BGP, MPLS, L3 or L2 VPN, intra-AS, inter-AS, multicast, whatever. It doesn't really make much of a difference. Know all the, I call them nerd knobs, or actually, for those of you that want to know the difference between a nerd and a geek, I'm a geek. Why is that? Because I have my own house, I'm married with 2 kids, and I have my own life. A nerd, no offense to those of you that don't have what I have as a geek, usually live in the basement of a home, live with mom and dad, don't have a girlfriend. Dungeons and Dragons. That's how I'd describe that. I'm not really a nerd. Nerd knobs is a way to associate it, but I refer to myself as a geek, and I use geek tweaks. And this way here that I can tweak things as I need to make things go the direction that I want them to. Because I'm not, I don't wear glasses. I try to be an outgoing person. I'm not, shy. I'm definitely not an introvert. So there are certain aspects that point me towards geek. I like technology. I like to learn new things. So that's just a little bit of fun for you all, in case you were wondering. So when it comes to going, how low can you go? That's probably my representation, is not necessarily going super low. You're just going into a particular feature set of that particular protocol, and you're learning all of the attributes for that. And that's what I consider to be how low can you go. Because you're not like, going super deep. You're just learning, you're just knowing every aspect of that particular protocol, which is probably the best way to go. Now, how do you keep yourself motivated? Well, part of my approach to that is, always has been and always will be, you have to keep yourself motivated. I'm not going to go do it for you. Nobody else is going to do it for you. You've got to stay motivated on your own. And there's a number of ways to do that. But at the end of the day, you really have to, you really got to know what your, you got to set limits. If you're like, the moment you start to get frustrated, aggravated, pissed off, however you want to refer to it, about a particular topic, I think it's time to take a break. I have the same approach when I start playing video games. As you can tell on the channel, I've started to record myself playing video games, whether I'm actually commentating or if I'm just playing it to play it. The moment I get pissed off, or I'm like, "Argh, this isn't working," it's time for me to shut it down. Because the last thing I want to do is I don't want to punch my monitor and then be aggravated at myself for another week and have to try to wean my wife into letting me buy a new monitor because I was a dumbass and broke it. Don't let your emotions get the better of you. Try to keep yourself in check. Because one other thing that's going to help you do is the moment you get frustrated, that's when it's time to take a break. And that to me is, if you can set yourself a limit, then that's going to be good for you. Because I can tell you, in my third attempt at the CCIA lab, I hit a brick wall in the lab. There was one particular thing that I could not get working. I didn't know what it was. But you were looking at the same config over and over and over again, and I had relied on I was using the troubleshooting mentality. Look at the config and see what's missing. But that assumes that you know what you're looking for. And what the lab asked me to do, I had never done before. So I was in uncharted territory, effectively speaking. So I got up and I walked out. I took a bathroom break, and I took a drink of water. And as I'm standing, as I went to the bathroom and I took a drink of water, this gentleman walked past me. I don't know who he was. But I have my name tag. You get a name tag when you take a CCIA lab, at least in RTP where I've taken it. You do. It says, you're an RNS lab, your name, your building number, who you are, that type of stuff. And he goes, "Oh, here for the lab, hey?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "How's it going?" I said, "Pretty good." And he goes, "That kind of gives it away." I said, "Yeah." I said, I ran into a hump, or into a brick wall. And he goes, is it a tall one?" I'm like, I don't know. And he goes, "Well, go around it then." And I'm like, good idea. So I went back in and I sat down and I looked at the config. I reread the question again, and instead of applying the configuration where I had applied it, I moved it around a little bit and it started to work. And I went back to the verification that was built in, because the verification that Cisco is looking for in the CCIA lab is actually in the task that you're configuring. So that means if you're configuring, let's say, task 2.3, and it tells you to configure BGP between these two routers, but make sure that let's say that eBGP multi-hop, or at the eBGP multi-hop configuration, if a certain, and this is actually was not on my lab, I'm just giving you a for instance, trying to think of how I would want to word it. If you're tasked with making sure that the TTL security is, the TTL value is no lower than 255 hops, or sorry, 250 hops, then you need to set your TTL value to, say, 5. So that if it's anything longer than that, then you know it's a bogus transmission. So there's only one way to configure that. I was just giving you for instance. I can't tell you what it was that I ran into, but I tweaked it and fixed the problem. And this guy had no idea what I was talking about, or he didn't know what my problem was. I didn't give him any information as to what it was. But he goes, "Is it a tall wall?" Well, I don't know. And he goes, "We'll go around it." In other words, try to find another solution that accomplishes the goal, but still doesn't break a restriction and meets the requirements. So again, it's one of those things where Cisco there's 5 ways of doing something with inside the CCA lab. Cisco wants you to know all 6. There's just a play on terms, but I figured it out. That'll work, and my verification worked. So knowing when to take a break and then come back to it, and then sometimes it will click right there for you. Other times, not so much. So keeping yourself motivated will definitely help. Switch gears if you need to. Don't be afraid to be going down BGP and then flip gears over to MPLS. Stop digging into the meat and potatoes, and go back to the setting up the play setting. So basically, stop worrying about the in-depth parts of the configuration and go back to learning about the technology, to a different technology. Go back just to the high level stuff. Keep it simple. And the last bullet point we have here is, if you get stuck in a technology black hole, what do you do? Well, switch gears. There's absolutely no reason that you have to stay in OSPF for 6 months. Learn it at a pace that makes sense for you. I know a lot of people that are taking the CCIE written exam here very soon, and I don't think they're ready. Then again, I've known people that were in the same situation, they came out and they passed it. Whatever works for you. If you do, great. So, final thoughts are going to pretty much be, there needs to be a time and a place for you to be able to sit down and be uninterrupted and dig into it. The average human can stay focused for about an hour, hour and a half. That's about my limit. After that, I had to take a break. Whether that's I have to get up, move around, or what have you. But if you start hitting that, your mental limit, it's time to downshift back to first gear, slow down, take a break, go to the bathroom, go take a walk, visit with the kids, whatever. Usually I try to break it up to where what I'll do is, if it's like later at night, 11 o'clock, midnight, 1 a.m., I'll, when I know everybody's asleep, I'll downshift and I'll start watching a YouTube video, or I'll play my game for half an hour. Just something that it's not digging into the configuration, not digging into the technology. And I'll be able to say, okay, because I have a clock that's sitting right in front of me that is at the exact same time that's on the clock on my computer. So it's 3:02 p.m. right now. And I will watch that. And once I hit a half an hour, I'm like, okay, if I start getting a headache, or I know I need to be up in the morning, then it's okay. Now it's time for me to, stop what I'm doing and, go to bed. And honestly, there's no reason for you to kill yourself trying to learn these technologies, because you're not going to be. I remember when I came back from the CCA lab on my 3rd attempt. It was October 20th, and I flew home the day of the test. I flew home. It was midnight when I got home, and it was about a half an hour drive home. So I'm sitting in the back of the truck. My brother-in-law, wife, and I think my father-in-law came to pick me up. And I'm constantly refreshing my email, waiting for the update to come through. I've seen people where, and every one of my attempts, it always came in at 1:30 in the morning the following day. So I'm hopeful that it comes in, because I felt really good about that attempt. And you know, this is not specific to CCIE. It's really specific to any particular track. But as I was going through and I got home, my wife said, you know, there was some really good episodes of XYZ TV show. So I started watching TV, and just to decompress. That had been a hellacious day. You know, started at 5:30 in the morning, East Coast time. And, you know, you get up, you take a little bit of breakfast, a little bit of food, go to the lab, stressed out a little bit on the way to the lab. And then, you know, everything went well in the lab. And then I come home, and then it's trying to, like, not lose your mind because you're waiting for the results. And then you get the results, and it's a pass. You know, I've been through 2 failures before that. And you try to go through there. So try to stay motivated. And not everybody can do that. It's not expected that you do. But, you know, if you get to a certain point and you find yourself where you're not getting over that hump, take a break. Or just look at something differently. You know, or let's not focus on that one little feature. You know, if you're trying to go into the belly of the beast and you get stuck on, let's say, for instance, you know, what's the difference between type 3 LSA, or if you do with like NSSA, if you do a no summary versus default information originate. If you can't get over yourself doing one over the other, well, just know that the 2 options are there. And look at the link state databases and compare the routes. That'll help you determine which way it's going. And then take a break. You know, I'm a much bigger proponent, and I love Wireshark. So one of the things that I do right now is none of my testing is in viral. It's all in ESXi. So ESXi, like I said, I have 12 CSRs, and I have 6 XRVs. The 10 CSRs are provider specific, and 2 are CE devices, right? These guys right here, probably 6 to 8 of them are running embedded packet capture, so I'm able to take any of the information, you know, layer 2 stuff, layer 3 stuff, whatever, and then I can export it to a computer and then run Wireshark on that box, and I can export the EPC as a PCAP file, and excuse me, and I can look at the Wireshark output. So that makes more sense to me when I do it that way. And this way here I can learn it, and then I can teach it, and it'll make more sense. And so yeah, that's pretty much the direction I go with it. And there's no reason why you couldn't do that. Don't let somebody else tell you you're doing things wrong, because just because what they're doing isn't what you're doing doesn't mean that it's wrong. So keep your chin up. If you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. I am more than happy to answer questions. Until next time, you guys take it easy. It's been fun. Thank you for the support. Keep on trucking. Don't let anybody get you down. And keep your chin up. Until next time, guys and gals.